Hi everyone, friends, neighbors, great to see you guys. I was actually worried how big this crowd would be, but we've got quite a few people here today. We've got some new members. We've got today actually that just signed up as NDP members. We've got Pat, Tony, and Liz. So welcome aboard, guys. So just some housekeeping before we get started. Monique Taylor was supposed to show up. Unfortunately, she had scheduling conflict and she wasn't able to show up, but will be showing up to some of our events sometime in the near future. Only NDP members in good standing can vote today. We've got an AGM that will occur later on this evening. We do have a debate between our candidates. However, there will not be a vote on who will be our provincial candidate today. That will be for some other time, but we will have a debate to listen to their ideas and for them to answer questions as well. And I'm just going to go through the agenda. I'll just talk about our riding and what we did over the past year and the state of our riding. Then we will have a debate between, there'll be Boris Rosolak and Mike O'Brien. They'll have opening statements for 5 minutes. Then there'll be a question period. First, the executives of the Riding Association will ask questions first, and then we'll open it up to the public. There'll be probably almost as many questions as possible. I think we'll go till 8:10 with questions. Mike and Boris will have 1 minute each to answer each of the questions, and we'll rotate. Mike will answer one question first, and then Boris will answer the next question first. And then they'll have 5 minutes just to wrap up for the closing statements. Okay? Great. So I'll talk about our accomplishments. I thought we had a great year in Mississauga South. We had very, very strong executive. We meet once a month, definitely, but I think we averaged a meeting every 2 weeks. Easily, because of the events that we've had and just organizing, calling our members and so on. Very, very strong contributions from Wendy Hamilton-Smith, for example. She was our shopaholic in the group. She's responsible for finding this beautiful tent for us. The lettering still needs to go up. And also Wendy was great at canvassing, hitting the streets and stomping the pavement. And I was really impressed with the way Wendy was able to connect with our community. Melanie definitely brought a lot of youth to our riding association, and we really love that energy that she brought, and she was our social media queen as well, so thank you for all your hard work on that. Gregorian here as well, our VP, wasn't here for the first part because you were doing an internship in the States, and then showed up, and Greg was our media outreach person. Whenever we needed to reach out to the media, Greg was on there and reaching out to the media and doing a great job with that, and always here early for events and helping us set up and showing up the executive meeting. So great work, Greg. Thank you. Mike, our CFO. If it wasn't for Mike, I don't know where we would be financially, but I thank you for all your hard work, Mike, and always showing up to meetings and keeping us honest with our cash. So thank you so much. He's also a possible candidate for the provincial. For the next provincial election. We had Mark DePalin. He's not here today. He had to work, unfortunately. Mark is a member at large. He was great at stomping the pavement, great at talking to people about the riding, about how an NDP, a strong NDP in Mississauga South was good for Mississauga South. Always willing to stomp the pavement, always willing to poster the neighborhood and all those things, and always there providing great ideas. So Mark's not here with us, he's here with us in spirit, but definitely he did a great job for us this year. And I can't say enough about Andrew Hamilton-Smith behind the camera there. He's our secretary, he was the chair of the candidate search committee. He did so much work for that and really followed everything that needed to be done, all the activities that needed to be done for the Ontario NDP. A man of all trades, really. his writing skills are amazing, so he would write press releases, always there to provide great ideas during our meeting. So thank you very much, Andrew. As I look into the camera, I look at Andrew. So thank you guys. Great So some activities we did, we definitely stomp in the pavement, as I like to say, are one of my favorite things to do, and one of the favorite things I did during the year. Welcome, Fabio. Welcome. So one of the things, definitely one of the major activities was stomping the pavement. Lots of positive, especially demonstrating. We demonstrated a few times in front of Stella Ambler's office for wanting to vote, because she voted in Parliament to reopen the abortion debate, and we think that issue is closed as a party. So we had protested in front of yes, Mel.
Not the abortion debate; it's the debate on where life begins.
Yes, and we can get into more specifics on that for sure. But generally speaking, she wanted to reopen that file, which, as a party, we decided to keep closed. So, also in front of Charles Sousa's office for first of all proroguing provincial parliament, mostly because they don't want to talk about the gas power plant scandal, and we found that terrible. But lots of positive energy from residents, from the community, from the honking, from the handshakes and so on, and it was a great feeling to know that there is a resurgence of the NDP within Ontario and within Mississauga South. We also did late night postering was the best. We did some of that for this event on a Friday night, and just going to post around and then going for a couple of beers afterwards. What a great time. We also, one of the major things as well is the 501 Lake Shore's signature. So going just on Lake Shore and asking for signatures for that possible Walmart that they want to build at 501 Lake Shore Road East. If you guys have not signed the petition yet, it's just outside right here, and please do so. And if you want to take some extra sheets and hand them out to the community, and if you feel that, I'll talk a bit about this more a bit later, but we were staunchly against Walmart possibly opening, or may possibly open at 501 Lake Shore Road East. Building bridges is something I think we really did well this year. Building bridges with Jim Tovey, he reached out to us in regards to, again, the 501 Lake Shore Road East development, and we established that relationship. He's actually the city councilor for Ward 1 here in this area. So we've got, I know Andrew Hamilton-Smith has also been talking to Jim about a possible homeless shelter for men. He wants to open one up in Mississauga South, and you can see the need based on the people on the street in Lake Shore. So we'll be working closely with Jim on that as well. Poor Credit BIA, I think our major message to the community is we are the small business defenders. We defend small businesses. And we really pushed that message with Poor Credit BIA, and they really appreciated that. I have regular meetings with Ellen Timms, who's the manager of the Poor Credit BIA, and we'll keep working closely with them. One of the stats that I heard a few times, once in Montreal, but yesterday as well, is for small businesses, is that we got to look at what Manitoba did for small business. They got rid of small business provincial taxes. And that's something we have to reinforce within our community, within the small businesses community here in Port Credit and Clarkson as well, and Lakeview as well. We've attended quite a few events as well in the community. There's Twas the Bike Before Christmas. We had a great table. We had our MVP table there. We also, and Twas the Bike Before Christmas is a fundraiser for Mississauga Food Bank. We've attended the BIA, Port Credit BIA breakfast a few times. Also, again, being there for small businesses and selling our story. Paint the Town Red. I was actually at the fundraiser last week and just been close to John Bozo, who is the community member that has created this event so we can have a great Canada Day in Port Credit. And We also have been to Clarkson Block Party. And those are just a few events that we've really tried to connect with the community and be there for the community and sell our message. 501 Lakeshore Road development was our major event of the year. It started with, again, Jim Tovey. A couple of years ago, we were running into Jim Tovey when the developers first announced the project. And they said, well, there's possibly a big box store or a large retail space that will be going up based on what we know is probably going to be a Walmart. There's probably no doubt about that. Walmart representatives have been at those meetings, at all of those meetings. And so we started talking to Jim, and then Jim approached us again. Specifically, it was the bite before Christmas, and then he came to talk to us in mid-December and said, guys, I need help, basically. And we showed up to the table. We've got, I told you, we've got a petition going on. We've got well over 500 plus 1,000 signatures. We need to keep getting those signatures going. We had a great event. We showed the high cost of low prices, which is a documentary about Walmart and the impact on Walmart has on the world stage, on the national stage, and then the community stage. We do obviously really focus on the impact of the community, the impact on, again, back to small businesses. When large retail spaces open, such as Walmart, in communities with a main street, such as Lakeshore, 25% of the small businesses close down after the first full year. Higher paying jobs, retail jobs, are replaced with lower paying jobs. So we were staunch, again, being there for small businesses and a strong advocate against this development for that specific reason. And we will keep working towards the OMB hearing, which will occur now sometime in October, and we will keep those that communication open and keep gathering signatures so that when the day comes, we can present the voice of the community. So I think there's so much to be proud of. I think there's still a lot of work to be done for next year, and the executives of whoever will be voted in next year as the executives. But I'm so proud. I think it's a great, for me, it's really my first full year within the Mississauga South NDP, and I think it's a great, that's why I'm saying I think it's a great first step. There's lots of work to be done, but we've really built those bridges. We've had a great event where we had 50 people and lots of media involved. We stomped the pavement. We showed our colors in Mississauga South with our strong executive. So I want to thank all the executives and all of our members in Mississauga South. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to our potential provincial candidates, Mike O'Brien and Boris Rosolak. I'm going to take a seat here. I will moderate from the side. I guess you guys can sit here and do your speeches on this podium here. And I will let one of you guys come up and introduce yourselves. You guys have 5 minutes each to introduce yourself. And Mike, why don't you go first?
Fairly good turnout. Makes a change. Anyway, I'll just say something about myself. I was born in Belgium just after the war, and I was taken to the UK, in South Wales, to a town called Llanelli in September of 1946. I was educated in South Wales. I got 10 O-levels, 3 A-levels, and then I got a degree in metallurgy at the University of South Wales. When I started working, I worked for Western Helicopters in London for 4 years. I was the assistant works metallurgist. Then I got married and we decided to emigrate to Canada. And after a year I got a job at Spar Aerospace and I was the lab supervisor there for 20 years. Then I was made redundant and I've been working since at Messier Doughty in HS. As a quality engineer on F-18 and V-22 program, and also I'm now the NDT level 3. I also audit internally and external suppliers. My wife some of you may know her as an actress with Mississauga Players. She was one of the star actors at one time, but Mississauga Players are going through hard times right now. And my hobbies, I like reading, I keep fit, so I try to exercise 3 or 4 times a week. I'm a political junkie. I always listen to Power and Politics and whatever other programs are going on. Soccer, I played for MSNDP from 2001 to 2006, which wasn't bad for a 50-year-old, I guess. And I like winemaking. Both that brew it yourself or from making it from scratch, from dandelions or pears or whatever fruit happens to be growing around. And when I retire, which probably will be the end of next year, we can go to Stratford. So, someone might, do you want me to carry on or do you want Boris?
Keep going. No, keep going.
So, some of my talking points, which may be open to a debate or probably will be, is for the economy, I tend to believe in Tommy Douglas's view of the economy. If you owe money to the bank, they own you, you can't do what you want. So we really have to take care of the deficit, number one. So how do you take care of that? Hopefully the economy grows, more people work, they all pay taxes, the deficit disappears. But also our corporations, both because of federal and provincial policies have been almost getting away with murder. They've been given a lot of corporate write-offs, and they're just sitting on the money. They're not investing, they're not employing people, and they're not training people. Now, working in industry in Canada, one thing that I have noticed compared to the UK when I first started working is industry here really wants a square peg in a square hole. If you're slightly rounded, there's something wrong with you, right? But the problem is, of course, as anybody who's been to university knows, you may come out of school with lots of theory, but you don't know how things work. You've got to get used to the company. You've got to get used to the way they work. You have to get used to working with other people, and that takes a bit of training. Companies don't like to train people. So my idea is, at least on the provincial level, they should hike the corporate tax rates so that the total corporate tax rate companies pay in Ontario is equal to what their competition does in the North American states that we're in competition with. If they show that they're buying new machinery, increasing production rates, training employees and so on, then they deserve to get write-offs. And also, I think the well-to-do people in this province should be paying more tax also. So I think they should create 2 extra tax categories, one over 150,000 and another over 250,000. So that, and also we've got so many immigrants in this country who come in here, have good credentials, often speak good English, but for some reason or other they're driving taxis instead of doing what they were trained to do. That's a real waste as well. In healthcare, we've all heard about the waits in hospitals. Well, I think one thing they should be doing is either provincially or encouraging entrepreneurs to build more long-term care beds, retirement homes for people to get them out of hospitals. And also that they should be encouraging more nurses and more organizations to take care of old people in their homes. Infrastructure, I think we keep hearing that so much needs to be done. But one thing we take for granted is water. We open the tap, we get pure water out. But I heard on the CBC today that one of the problems with our water is a lot of our water plants are so outdated, they can't do anything about all the medicines that get flushed into the sewers. We're drinking it all. It's not doing us any good. And they can deal with it, but the infrastructure has to be modernized. Also, public transportation needs to be upgraded. Even Mayor McCallion stated that in Mississauga, one of the issues here was they didn't design the city for public transit. It was built for the car. And I think there should be more encouragement to build bike lanes in both Mississauga and all the cities in Ontario. For the environment, we know we have a fairly good blue box program and grey box program, but there's so many things we're not allowed to put in there. It's not as if there isn't the technology to deal with a lot of this waste. It's just for some reason nobody wants to deal with it because maybe they have to buy new equipment. Energy, I think that we should be encouraging a pipeline from the west to the east. I know some people won't agree with that, but I think we should be turning our oil into secondary products. We should have more refineries in each province. And I don't think that we should be paying the world price either, because we already know that Alberta is selling oil to the States at a discount. So our premiers or whoever deals with them should be able to negotiate a more reasonable rate. You know, in the East Coast now, they're actually importing Brent crude at $135 a barrel. We're selling it to the US, or we will before Christmas, at $55 a barrel. Does it make sense to anyone? It doesn't to me. Anyway, we should also be changing the building code so that new buildings have solar panels on the roof. So electricity that's generated can go into the grid. And more wind power mills. I know people have problems because of supposed neurological problems. They don't seem to have that in Britain. Maybe it's because we're more curmudgeonly over there, I don't know. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Boris, you can go over 5 minutes as well if you want.
Did I go much over? I didn't time that.
That's all right.
Well, Mike, I admire your resume and I admire the things that you have to say. As far as the debate goes, I don't disagree with anything that you have to say. I am here, so my name is Boris Rosolak. I was born in Toronto. I'm in my early 50s. That's my lovely bride in the corner of 30 some odd years. And our son, Tony, who's adopted son, Tony, and a good friend of mine, Tony Max. Pat and I have 2 children, both went to university. My son's an engineer. I got his t-shirt. And our daughter just graduated from Wilfrid Laurier University. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Toronto. I studied social work at Ryerson. I worked for the Children's Aid Society. I worked at a juvenile detention and observation center. And for 20 years, I was the manager, and still technically I'm the manager of a homeless shelter called Seaton House, Canada's largest homeless shelter for men. And my passion for working with marginalized people and people on the fringe was being the manager or superintendent of Seaton House. You dealt with a lot of negativity from the community because you were held accountable for the blight that they saw. And at some point it became quite offensive when people would buy 5,000 square foot houses for $300,000 and then realize, well, maybe I got this deal on this house because it's beside this building called Seaton House, this large homeless shelter. They didn't do their homework. And then they'd hold you accountable. And by that, we coined a phrase that Seaton House only houses 3 types of men: somebody's father, somebody's brother, and somebody's son. Okay? We have to care for the people in our community. And I've had this passion for the duration of my work life. And then what brought me here today is my desire to help craft a message, confront the madness that I see happening in our community today. And I was so outraged by the events of our Liberal government that I vowed that I wasn't just going to be an angry, aging person. I was going to be a person who got off their butt and did something. And if this is the extent of my contribution, I can say it took a shot to help the message. And my message goes back to the first house I was raised in, which was on Brunswick Avenue. and I still maintain a very dear relationship with a friend of mine who's a retired professor. And last June, this retired professor runs into a mutual neighbor of ours on Brunswick Avenue. And they have a conversation, and this mutual neighbor of ours happens to be the president of the gas company that they canceled in Mississauga. And he says to my neighbor last June, Alan, we got all our money. We got $600,000, $600 million. We got all our money, okay? And now the government is going to have to spend $400 million from the new plant back to Mississauga to the power grid to put that power back online. Now do the math, that's $1 billion right there. He said, don't ignore the hedge funds. The government didn't even have a financial plan. They had to borrow this money from an American hedge fund. Okay? I'm an average citizen with a bachelor's degree from the University of Toronto. I've known this for over a year. How can Dalton McGinn, how can Charles Sousa say, we didn't know? Do you know where they came up with the $40 million price tag? Because you wouldn't have accepted zero. If they said, this isn't going to cost us a cent, you would have said, hey, wait a minute. So we'll throw out some nonsensical number, and maybe that'll placate people. Okay? Somebody has to confront this. Right? I'm driving home a month ago. I'll tell you, it was the last day the Leafs were on the playoffs. And the major thing I see happening in our society today is this polarization. And it's the devaluation of labor. It's the devaluation of average working people who just have average goals, who want to raise average families, who want the best for their children, they want opportunities. Sherry DeNovo yesterday talked about this isn't the Ontario she grew up in. And it was like, well, you know, that's been my message. My kids are not going to have the same opportunities that we had. And I'm talking about opportunities like falling in love, having a relationship, having children, having security in employment, having a house, having at least an income that supports an apartment. I think that opportunity is becoming a distant dream for our generation today. So I'm driving home on the last playoff game the Leafs were playing Boston. And that fool, Kevin O'Leary, the Dragons fan, is on the John Tory show. And that guy says, this was when Bay Street law firms are farming out their research to research companies in India and Malaysia, okay, because Canadian workers are too expensive. So Kevin O'Leary goes, Canada is done. Canada as an economy is over, it's done. You can get a Malaysian, you can get an Indian to work at their desks for 20 hours a day and sleep under the desk for the next 4. You'll never get a Canadian to do that. Canada is done. Do you know what John Tory's question was? Who's going to win the hockey game tonight? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? You want that polarization? You want the business class, and it's becoming more narrow and narrow. The business class making enormous profits, and the rest of us working for $12.50 an hour. I work for the City of Toronto. I've been an employee for 25 years. I heard Rob Ford say, why are we paying people $25 an hour when we can get this done for $12.50? Which one of you can raise a family on $12.50? It's impossible. Okay? North America and our economy is 70% consumer driven. To have a thriving economy, you need consumers with purchasing power. You're not going to get that at $12.50. And the time to fight this madness, the time to, and I encourage you all to help shape the message, and you shape the message by getting access to the media. And you have these radio shows that are predominantly conservative moderators trying to control the conservative message. It doesn't cost you or your friends a penny to call in and change the narrative and talk about what the real message of average people working for a living. There is no connection between the stock market today And on Mike's point, the stock market today and our economy are two disconnected things. You're a bit older than I am, and I admire your athletic ability. When we were young men, companies issued stocks to raise capital, to reinvest in their companies, to get greater market share, to have a thriving business. Now, the financial community, as its own entity, has created these financial products that actually don't translate into greater production and the fabrication of goods. They're just commodities. This paper thing is a commodity. And I'm going to trade it to you this week. I'm going to make my 3%. I'm going to make my 3%. And you know what? Next week you sell it back to me, and then you're going to make your 3%. But that never gets to Eric. It never gets to Eric. And we don't tax these people. Why aren't we taxing day traders? Why aren't we taxing speculators to take the money out of this narrowly defined group of individuals that do nothing for our economy? Now, so that's one of my messages. In 2012, I'm watching Barack Obama's State of the Union address. I invite you to go look at Barack Obama's State of the Union address. Barack Obama points to a woman he invited in the audience. She's a 45-year-old single mother of 3. And he says, she's the face of the new American worker. She retrained herself, and she got a job in the state of North Carolina because North Carolina gave Siemens a $350 million gift to locate their factory in North Carolina. That was the same factory they closed in Hamilton, Ontario in 2011. Did the Liberals do anything about this? Did the Conservatives do anything about this? $350 million given to Siemens to buy a company in Hamilton and then relocate it. Who's doing anything about this? That was 500 jobs. So, do you see where I'm going? do you see what my message is?
Boris, you're at over 9 minutes.
Whoa. I'm on page 1. All right, well, you see where I'm going, and I don't disagree. I'm going to make a couple more points. Healthcare, medicine is not healthcare, okay? Medicine is aftercare. If you come to the point of you needing to take medicine to deal with your cancer or your diabetes or your heart condition, I wish you the best, and hopefully there are good outcomes. We need to do a lot more education about preventative care. We need to help people avoid the medicines that are in our sewer system. I'm going to leave on one point, because you can see I can go on for a long time. The Air Canada brought in the CEO for the United States of America. He was the only one with this talent to run Air Canada. They paid him $5 million a year to run Air Canada. Last year, he created a profit situation in Air Canada. They gave him a $5 million bonus for bringing in a profit. How hard is it if you ran Air Canada to bring a profit where you're paying your workers 75% less today than you did 25 years ago? Okay? Those newcomers to Canada that we seduced saying, yes, come to Canada, we have tons of opportunity for you. I've worked with them in homeless shelters, and they are engineers. They are, well, we've had doctors who did get regulated, but they are people who come in with great skills, yet our institutions deny them the opportunity to work within their skills, and that drives down the cost of labor. We got a choice. We can all say, geez, that guy was right 15 years from now when we're all working for $12 an hour. Or we can do something now. And I say, we got to do something now, and we all have to shape that message. And that's what I've done.
So now is the time for question period. By the way, help yourselves to some water. There's some water in the back if you guys are thirsty. It is a hot day out today. So,
no. And I didn't even get the Charles Sousa.
we'll let you get the Charles Sousa. We'll let both of you get the Charles Sousa.
It's too far away.
So I'm going to grab one too. So it's going to be questions from the executives first, and then 1 minute response on each of the potential candidates. I'm going to open it up to the executives. So, Greg, do you have any questions right now? No? Mel?
I have a question for Mike. Okay, so you said you'd like to see more wind power. And, okay, how do you feel about the fact that photovoltaics are just incredibly more sustainable in terms of with like maintenance, and also specifically there are some environmental things like I've heard it interferes with the mating pattern, or like there's some electromagnetic sort of thing that's interfering with like small mammals' mating patterns. And there's also, it kills a lot of really big birds of prey with the eyes that are like this kind of thing. They can't see.
forward.
Yeah, it's really awful, these pictures. Yes, so photovoltaics, much better, don't you think?
Yeah, but again, you know, we do have wings. Yeah, what you say is quite true. I don't know what the answer is, but you know, one thing about human beings, we have this brain and we can develop them to do things if we want to. Right?
Yes.
There's nothing that, I'm sure that if it generates or causes birds to be killed, I'm sure there's some way of protecting them too. What it is, I don't
Well,
know.
the problem is that global warming is going to decimate these birds, and this is a solution for global warming, right?
Yeah.
What
Well,
do you do?
but there is no simple answer to anything, right? It's just you have to do some research and development, which unfortunately Canada isn't renowned for doing. They don't like to do research and development here. They'd rather have the US do it, or the UK do it, or Europe do it, and we just adopt whatever somebody else finds. So, sorry, I don't really have an answer.
Okay, but you did answer me, and you gave me some details that I really appreciate, so thank you.
Boris, sorry, we'll need to let Boris respond as well.
Okay, all right. I would say that you have to rely on science for the answer. I know what I don't know, so I'm not going to offer an informed opinion on things I don't know about. If it is an issue, then you have people who are informed who can help form scientific consensus, and you try to come up with the best answer.
Well, the science is kind of, a lot of people don't really believe in the effects of the electromagnetic smog stuff, so yes, the science needs to be hashed out for this particular issue.
Fabio, we're going to just wait and let the executives ask questions, and you'll have plenty of time to ask your question. Okay, thank you, thank you. Wendy?
Okay, I'll ask the question. What do you think of Charles Sousa?
What do I think?
Well,
Okay, can I add on to that? So Charles Sousa is very well liked in this community. He does a lot for the community in regards to the food banks in the community in Mississauga South. He contributes a lot to all the fundraising that occurs. Paint the Town Red is an example. He's very active in that. And so the question is there is a big backing by those community groups towards Charles Sousa. The question is how are you going to tackle them without alienating those community groups?
Charles Sousa, I'm sure, is a fine man. I'm sure he's a fine father, a good husband, a good community member. I would applaud him. I voted for him in the last election, and I actually feel betrayed by him and the policies of his government. So the major offense I take from Charles Sousa is to save his job, we spent $1 billion, okay? And that is wrong. And then to promote him to the Minister of Finance for the province is even wronger. And that is an intolerable situation. And back again, when we were in school, young men taking economics, do you recall the formula of one well-paying job supporting 6 jobs in the community?
That makes sense.
Okay, in the Canadian context, it was GM, right?
We have 5 seconds left.
One GM job supports 6 jobs in the community. And if people saw the profit the insurance industry was making, they would be far more demanding than 15%. I would also say that the provincial government needs to use its influence in reducing the cost of living for people on a real basis. What are your cell phone bills? Are you happy with what you're paying there? No, we got the highest rates in cell phone, we got the highest rates in cable, and the provincial government can really influence those billing practices.
Mike? Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think actually that was one of the big mistakes Bob Ray's government made back in 1990s. They promised they would nationalize auto insurance, and they didn't go through it. They should have. They lost a lot of votes because really, you know, auto insurance, we're reliant on the car. We have to use the car because there isn't public transit. You know, that's a policy that basically is based on how well you drive,
Where you live.
But you know, they may deserve to make a profit, but it doesn't have to be astronomical.
And Mike, let me ask you a question. Because I remember thinking this when I was your age. Why don't you make, and you triggered my memory, why don't you make car insurance tax deductible? We all have to have it. You're
Yeah.
paying $3,000 a year and I'm paying $1,500 a year. Well, you got a $3,000 tax deduction. Let's see what the government says then.
Yeah. But again, you know, you'd have to get the financial house in order first of all. But that's certainly a good at least. But then another thing, because you know, coming from the UK, I'm sorry, this is just an aside. You know, what I would like to see is as well is students not having to pay tuition fees. I come from a country when I went to university, I didn't pay tuition.
Can it be retroactive?
Even dreaming technical. I used to do that when I was a teenager, right? Not anymore.
Any
Why
oth-
not though?
Any other questions from the floor? Yeah?
I was
Michelle?
actually just gonna make a comment, and then I guess if you want to respond or whatever. Because we saw Sherry was speaking yesterday that the 15% reduction in the budget, for one thing, the budget isn't an NDP budget. It's one of the demands that we were lucky enough to get.
Right.
Second thing that we all know is that the Liberal government has their hands in the insurance companies' pockets. So it's in the best interest for them not to put such pressure on these insurance companies because they won't get funding for the Liberal Party. So they know where their friends are and they're ensuring that their friends stay happy. You know, I think that just that one incentive, the 15%, I think it's a start. And when you look at the NDP, when we're talking about changes or additions into the budget, we have a very long-term vision. And over this long-term vision, it's about being socially and economically responsible. And in this economic situation that we're in right now in Ontario, yeah, it's little steps, but it's little steps in the right direction, right? And if it can help out you or me, then that's usually progress for us in the NDP. So even though it's not our budget, I think it was worthwhile to fight for that.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Fabio.
Do you think that our government should be investing some of our money to produce money, say compete with power companies for a lower price, something that doesn't expire? Or even the federal government taking back all their resources off contract when the contracts are done, and taking and harvesting our diamonds, our oil, and gold, everything, and selling it on our own. So we're making the profit and we have more money ourselves. Taxing doesn't seem to always be the right option.
No, I agree. I mean, really, I think what Canada should be doing both provincially and federally is generating secondary industry. I mean, anybody, our friend there, they say Australia has the same kind of economy as we do. We pull everything under the ground and export it, right? I mean, when I was in New South Wales, there was a big nickel refinery in Swansea. Guess where all the people all came from? Sudbury. But they refined it in Swansea and in Acton. Why weren't they doing it here? That's what we should be doing. But unless people get activated and start getting on the politicians' cases, it's going to carry on in the same old way. Because as Boris said, they're quite happy for people to be living on 12, 15 an hour. Well, why shouldn't they be getting $30 or $40 an hour if they're generating enough wealth, both for the company, the country, and for themselves?
And to go full circle on Mike's point and Eric's point, when my wife and I were starting out as a young couple, I remember setting the goal of $1,000 on a washer and dryer. We cannot spend more than $1,000 on a washer and dryer. That was the maximum. Well, that same washer and dryer, 30 years later, is like $750. Is steel cheaper? No. Is copper cheaper? No. Is rubber cheaper? No. The only thing that's cheaper is you're selling it at Walmart because no Canadian has touched that washer and dryer until the guy loads it off of the cart, goes into the truck.
Yeah.
That's the only Canadian that touches this product. We have to be able to make these products again, like we did, so people can be employed at a reasonable rate. And when wages increase, the quality of life increases, okay? And we have to break this neoconservative message out there. I'm amazed. I've been a member of management for 25 years, right? There are some union stewards that would be shocked to hear me talking the way I'm talking now, but it's true, okay? But I'm amazed at how we have accepted this anti-union bash, or this union bashing message. And unions have we've let unions be portrayed as these evil entities in our society today. And you get people making $20 an hour complaining about people making $40 an hour, but nobody's complaining about the guy making $4 million a year.
Yes.
I don't get it.
And the other thing is, you should remember, why did unions start in the first place? I mean, Britain was the first area which basically had the Industrial Revolution. You know, at the end of the 19th century, there were 5- and 8-year-old children down mines, right? Ponies went down the mines and never came up. People were making matches and so on, and got phosphorus poisoning and so on. They had no health and safety in those days either. But things have improved, but technology's improved. Really, your washing machine should cost a lot less than it does, because the fabrication, all the technology is much better. Yeah, there's some labor input, but they'd rather pay somebody in India or China $1 an hour than pay somebody here $20 and $25 an hour.